entertaining and informative.
This is Sid and Friends in the Morning.
77 WABC.
They tell me that this Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, Mr. President, is Jewish. He's Jewish like Bernie Sanders is Jewish. Are you kidding me? He's a crappy Jew. He's a horrible Jew. Great Olivia Newton-John, the late, great Olivia Newton-John. And Lou, there is some significance to this song by Olivia at 6:54 on your cloudy Thursday morning. What would that be, my friend?
She passed away 2 years ago.
Oh,
today.
no.
Yes.
2 years ago today.
Yep.
Yeah.
2022, yes. 2 years.
2 years ago today. Man, I loved her. And then, of course, that was a comment I made to President Trump on this show about 10 days ago, calling Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, a quote-unquote crappy Jew. You know, I got Jewish friends that have reached out to me. One guy lived across the street from me in Boca. He was clearly pissed at me. His name is Jeff Cohen. Who the hell are you to call another Jew crappy? And I didn't want to say to Jeff because I like Jeff, his wife, and his kids. Well, you're probably a crappy Jew. If you're asking me what a crappy Jew is, then my old partner, Scott Kaplan, reached out to me from L.A. yesterday. He said, all I'm reading about are these people killing you. He goes, maybe you should explain what a crappy Jew is. I said, maybe he's listening to my show every day. I've explained it time and time again. But here's one more time for you. And you know what he said afterwards? You're right. He's a crappy Jew. But the person that has really run with this crappy Jew baton is my friend Cindy Grosz, who's a ardent Trump supporter. Has been on a million committees for Donald Trump, been on this show for many years, dating back to the days of me and Bernard. And here she is this morning, Cindy Grosz. Cindy, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, and keep calling out crappy Jews because we're not doing it enough. We're not doing it enough in the mainstream, our organizations, our religious groups. And I just love what you're doing, and it's from all over. If we don't stop it, it's only going to continue.
No, I agree, and you know some of the names on the list, George Soros, Bernie Sanders, Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, and so I put on Instagram at rosenberg.sydney, I can tell you to follow me today, and Facebook, Sid Rosenberg. I said, hey, give me your crappy Jew list, and people have been posting for the last 2 days, and I've seen from Steven Spielberg to Barbara Streisand, but you, Cindy Grosz, you've got a new crappy Jew for the list this morning. Who would that be?
Senator Richard Blumenthal for teaching the Democratic vice presidential nominee about how to fake military service. And when you go on our social media, because I tag Sid, I use the New York Times as an example proving my point from 2010.
Well, the reason why you say that is because Dick Blumenthal has been lying for years, lying about his service. He's a guy that has got stolen valor written all over his face. So you're saying, of course, and this is true, that Walz is doing the same thing as Blumenthal, making Blumenthal a crappy Jew.
Absolutely. And I was watching CNN last night, and they were trying to explain how it's not the same thing, which is why it is so important that knowledge is power and education is key. Everybody should forget about polls and forget about social media and work to actually get out the vote and educate people about the realistic issues that are affecting you every day. And the answers are clear: who to vote for, red down ballot, whether it's Congress. In New York, we have the entire state assembly, and as you know, there's a very good chance our friend Tom Sullivan's going to pick up a seat, and I heard there were 2 others. Even local villages and everything. Get to know your local people and make it, go state and national as well. We need the House, we need the Senate, and we need Donald Trump back in the White House for the days of eggs $2 a dozen and gas $2 a dozen, and we have to extend the Abraham Accords. You and I both know what great years it was as we went to many, many events together.
Yeah, we did. And, by the way, Tom Sullivan is doing great. I know that in my neighborhood, O'Reilly tried to debate this guy Sanders, but Sanders turned it down. Mark Healy's doing a whole piece on that in The Wave. So we've got Paul King and O'Reilly and Tom Sullivan on the Republican side. But I want to get back. You mentioned Trump and the Abraham Accords, the whole crappy Jew thing. So I explained to people, here's why Emhoff is a crappy Jew. And you were the first person to agree. I said, since October the 7th, I've heard nothing from Kamala Harris's husband. And if you're a good Jew, at some point, you're the vice president's husband, you're going to say something. I'm upset. I'm destroyed. He has said nothing. His daughter, that creep, has raised over $8 million for pro-Hamas groups all over the country. As far as I know, he's in line with Kamala Harris until he tells me differently about a ceasefire. So I've never heard Doug Emhoff ever once say anything positive about Israel, fight for the Jewish people. So it's easy for me to call him a crappy Jew. What would your definition be? You're much more observant than I am. You go to shul. I think you're kosher. What would your definition of a crappy Jew be?
So I'm not anybody's rabbi, and I'm not here to judge one Jew versus another. But I do know that he married out of the faith twice. And, we know people like Michael Douglas or Jamie Lee Curtis whose fathers were Jewish and whose mothers weren't. But they take pride in their Jewish heritage, and they actually speak out against anti-Semitism. Whether or not you are a less religious person and don't believe they're Jewish, or believe they're Jewish, or the more religious person that believes they aren't Jewish because of their mothers, at least they have some pride in their Judaism and speak out. This is somebody whose kids take pride in saying they're not Jewish. So we don't need Hitler. We don't need Iran to end the Jewish people with people like this who believe that having children out of the faith and teaching them to hate the faith is important, which is why I am participating in a huge event and speaking at the Mordechai Mission this Sunday, bringing together people who believe in Judeo-Christian values.
I've got a buddy down in Boca who was very angry with me. A bunch of Jews very angry with me that I called them a crappy Jew. And he was also angry with me that I called out Noah Tishby weeks ago, because Noah Tishby is probably the most famous of all of our influencers, from Lizzie Savetsky, who's now come around. She's voting for Trump, and others. Noah makes the most money, I believe, anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 per appearance. And she posted a picture a couple of weeks ago with Joe Biden, both smiling together when he stepped down. And I ripped her. And my friend down in Boca said, well, wait a second. If you're a Jew, you don't rip Jews. Jewish people need to stick together. And I said, I disagree. I said, in fact, it makes me more angry when Jewish people vote Democrat, when Jewish people don't stand up for Israel, when Jews say, I'm a great Jew, but Israel's not important to me. That makes me even more angry. Something tells me, Cindy Grosz, you agree with me.
You know I do, and I'm going to continue this crappy Jew stuff with you every single day and expose it, including every Jewish person who was in Congress and Senate in 2015 that needs to be voted out now because they supported the original Iran nuclear deal, refused to go to the embassy opening when they were invited in Jerusalem in 2018, and then they continued now when Biden came back to pursue the Iran nuclear deal. Well, they have American blood on their hands, and they have Israeli blood from October 7th.
I know one of those people is that lowlife Nadler here in Manhattan. I know he's one of them. Who are some others?
Well, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and we are very lucky because we have a friend who's a Republican running against her in a primary who happens to be Jewish.
Brian Lieb, yes. Yes.
We don't talk enough about how many Republicans are running in all over the country that are Jewish, that stand with the America First values. And if you talk about issues and America First values, it becomes clear. It really stands with Judeo-Christian values of the freedom of education, the freedom to pray the way you want, the ideas of family and faith, and quality education. I mean, of course, the number one crappy Jew of all time is Randy Weingarten.
Oh, the worst. The worst. But that's right. She runs a teachers union.
I still have my ongoing lawsuit, and I called out the anti-Semitism in schools a decade before anybody else did.
You did. Randy Weingarten, the head of the teachers union. This is Cindy Grosz. So on the way out, I'm going to throw a couple of names at you, and you tell me crappy Jew or not. How about Dan Goldman, crappy Jew or not?
Well, I shared it with you yesterday. He had a post about all the Democrats that are Jews. Well, I want to see all those Democrats that are Jews in office. I think it was like 28 senators that are Democrat and 28 congressmen, 8 senators. How much have they done to actually have legislation to remove the squad? What have they actually done to secure your streets where you live, whether it's New Jersey, New York, North Dakota, Texas? Don't forget, because of the way finance is today, every election, because every state's a border state, is your elected official, because your tax dollars are paying every single one of their their paychecks and every single one of their benefits and retirement.
Steven Spielberg has been called a crappy Jew on my Facebook page 10 times this morning, and one person said, wait a second, how could he possibly be a crappy Jew? He made the movie Schindler's List. And some lady said, that was 30 years ago.
He's producing the entire convention together with Jeffrey Katzenberg. So I actually called it out, and I got a lot of calls from your post because I was the one who pointed out that he's running the DNC show there. I don't care. Ben Stiller did the most ultimate insult to anybody who's an Ethiopian Jew, that he wishes he was a black person. How about all the black Jews? It doesn't even make sense what he said. It was an embarrassment. And his mother converted to Judaism.
I know. Mazi Philip, trust me, didn't find that to be funny, and she's an Ethiopian Jew. In fact, she'll be live in studio with me on Tuesday after passing that mask bill in Nassau County. All right, so what about the one more? Barbara Streisand, crappy Jew or not?
Of course she is. And you know what? I'm just telling people, if you want to talk about entertainment, Andy Cohen was honored with a lot of the influencers that are on Instagram talking about anti-Semitism and thanking him. Well, Bravo last night had on Kate Blanchett, who has been parading every red carpet in gowns that are 5 figures promoting Palestinian flags. I think people need to be educated. It's time to stop watching TV and watching Instagram to see how everybody looks photoshopped and get educated. If you want to win this election, and if this really is the election, it's going to depend on your future, whether you want socialism and communism or whether you want a democracy, whether or not you're Jewish, non-Jewish, whether you live in New York or you live in Idaho. This is the election. Red down ballot.
Cindy, that's a heck of an appearance. I enjoyed that immensely. My whole crew did. Nalu and Noam and Justin. And folks, go on my Instagram, go on my Facebook, go on Cindy Grosz's social media too, and keep up the list of crappy Jews, because if we don't call them out, nobody is. And for some reason, we've taken on that responsibility, and we love every second of it. Hey, Cindy, great job, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a great segment. Cindy Grosz right there on Sid and Friends in the Morning.